Welcome to Boxing During Dinner, back here at Alex's house, which is our home.
It sounds a little different when you're saying at Alex's place instead of Randazzo's Little Italy, but it's still a really nice place.
It's still a great place.
The food's just not as
there's
good.
football in the back. So, David, finally the big week has gotten here. I feel like we've been talking about this fight forever.
We have.
Canelo Mayweather, finally, fight week is upon us. I'll be leaving to Las Vegas by the time this
I'm going to cut you off. You said
posted.
Canelo Mayweather. Is that a little bit of a prelude to your perception of how this is going to go?
No, I'm just going in alphabetical order.
Oh.
Canelo, CM. And I am wearing a Canelo t-shirt. I thought it was an Archie t-shirt from Archie's Comics.
Or as Floyd Mayweather would say, Chucky.
But this does not mean I think Canelo's going to win. We'll be giving our predictions in a little bit. But David, how excited are you for this fight? I haven't been this hyped over a fight in a long time.
It's just that moment. You know, I think I had it on Saturday when we were watching, this Seth Mitchell and Chris Arreola fights, and then starting to see the third episode of All Access and everything like that. You start hearing some rumors out of Mayweather's camp last week that makes you think this is even a little bit more scintillating. We'll talk about that in a second, too. All of this is just setting up for a picture-perfect weekend. And the Detroit Lions won this past weekend. So
and the Dolphins won, too.
So we're happy down here.
Dolphins won, Canes won. For you Gator fans, sorry, but it could be a pretty cool week the rest of the week with this fight. So, David, predictions. I'll let you go first. Last week, we kind of gave a little analysis on the fight. We did mention briefly who we kind of thought was going to win, but you can go ahead.
I'm going to go with Floyd Mayweather Jr., TKO in the 11th round.
Wow.
I think that there's going to be a body attack from Mayweather that we haven't seen in a while. I imagine this is going to be a fight that's fought inside. I think Canelo is expecting an outside fight, and something I've read a few observations on, Vivek Wallace has written about this a little bit, is we haven't really seen Canelo have to fight inside on a lot of guys. He's been able to attack the body from the outside, but he's never really had anybody who smothers his attack, and I think that's a way Mayweather's going to take away Canelo's perceived advantage in power. The body attack is, another way to get Canelo to slow down, and I just think Mayweather is still at 36, even maybe a shade slower than 28-year-old Floyd Mayweather. I think he's still going to be too much for Canelo, but you just never know.
It's funny you finish off your prediction with the word "but," and that's a B-U-T, not B-U-double-T.
In Miami, there's a lot of that too.
Because this is the first time I think in Floyd Mayweather's career that there's been a "but." At least in my thinking of how the outcome of the fight is gonna happen. Does Canelo have a chance? Yes. Does he have a very good chance of winning this fight? Yes. The guy's young. He's 23. He's strong. He's a big kid. He may not be taller than Mayweather, but he's physically bigger. He's gonna weigh.
His hair's bigger than Mayweather.
Yes.
That gives him a perceived advantage.
He's gonna come into the fight, and we're thinking around 170. And he's getting better. He's been getting better with each fight. I mean, remember, this is a kid that didn't have the Olympic pedigree like Floyd Mayweather. He didn't come in to the pro game right away as a highly touted professional coming out of the amateur ranks. But he's been fighting in the pros since he was 15 years old. So he had to learn along the way. Fought some amateur fights, but when he was a kid, basically,
right.
Started fighting pro when he was a kid, and he's been getting better. And his last fight was, I think, kind of like the culmination of the improvement of Canelo Alvarez, and I just think he's going to get better. Floyd has never fought. Well, he has fought guys like this, but not at 36. This isn't Robert Guerrero.
Right.
This isn't Miguel Cotto, who had been damaged previous to this fight. This is an undefeated young kid who comes in with power, undefeated record. And the kid believes in himself. And a lot of people, they call BS on all this stuff. Robert Guerrero said, I'm going to beat Mayweather. I don't really think Robert Guerrero believed he belonged in there with Floyd Mayweather.
It became evident in the first round that he no longer thought that.
And I think Canelo more than believes that he belongs in there with Floyd Mayweather.
Yep.
So with all that said, my prediction is still Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Wow.
Because by decision, I think it'll be a closer fight than a lot of Floyd fans anticipate. And I would consider myself a huge fan of Floyd Mayweather, of his ability in the ring, his skills. He's one of the most talented fighters I've ever seen, anybody's ever seen in boxing. For years and years, I thought the fight that would have happened, Pacquiao and Mayweather, was going to be a one-sided win for Floyd Mayweather Jr. I never, ever believed Pacquiao would have beat him. But Canelo poses the biggest threat to Floyd Mayweather yet. And I think it's going to be a close fight, maybe 116, 112, 115, 113 in that area. Is it out of the realm of possibilities that Canelo could win with a couple of judging miscalculations? Very well could happen, but
crazier things have happened.
Crazier things have happened, but you know, if Canelo were fighting almost anybody else in this type of fight with the way he's been improving, I would go with Canelo, but he is fighting Floyd Mayweather. I mean, there's not too many Floyd Mayweathers in the history of boxing. So, I mean, all I could hope for is a good fight, a fight that fans could enjoy, not a one-sided fight. And I really don't think, as much as I love Floyd Mayweather's skills, I don't think this is going to be one-sided. I think we're going to see some of what we saw against Miguel Cotto, but a little more often than what Cotto did.
I've played this fight through my head in so many different scenarios, as I'm sure a lot of fight fans who are watching this show, and even those who aren't watching, have probably also done the same. And I see a number of different scenarios each time I do this. There is the scenario that Canelo comes out and surprises Mayweather with his timing, which I think is very much a possible scenario. And he's got the pop to put Mayweather in damage. And you saw clips of that on All Access when Shane Mosley caught Mayweather with that perfect right hand and stunned him twice in the same round. Does Canelo have the kind of power to do that? Absolutely. The speed, timing? Absolutely. Then I also see the scenario where, and it's the one that I predicted, which is Mayweather maybe takes on a little bit more of an offensive approach than we would normally come to expect from him. And he has become more of an offensive fighter in recent years. And I tend to think that if this fight does stay in close, and this is ultimately my prediction, that we're going to see a number of scenarios unfold. But if this turns into a boxing match, you never seem to think that Mayweather would be out of his depth, but I think that puts him in range for what Canelo Alvarez's best assets are. And Floyd Mayweather's the master of adjustments. I feel like if you ever bet against him, you're foolish until proven otherwise.
Right, and I think Canelo's biggest chance in this fight is early on. Because we've seen even with Robert Guerrero, which was almost a shutout, but you could make a case that Guerrero won the first 2 rounds because he was in the fight and he was pressuring Floyd and doing what he was set out to do with some effectiveness, which wasn't much. But Canelo, if he does the same thing and takes advantage early with his power and his, he does have kind of underrated hand speed. Because a lot of people think Canelo is extremely slow, and at one point I did think he was slow. But you get the sense in the last couple of fights that Canelo's hand speed has gotten better. Is it superb hand speed? No, by any means of.
I think it's the timing of his punches.
It's
that makes
the timing of the punches,
surprising.
right? But I have to go with Floyd Mayweather. He's hard to pick against, even with all that all that said, and Canelo's chances. But if Canelo pulls out the upset, it wouldn't be extremely surprising to me. But I do expect Mayweather to win the fight. And before we
hold on, I got a question for you though, real quick. I know we're gonna go to some fan predictions, but in one sentence, Lucas Matisse, Danny Garcia.
Right, I was gonna say before we go to the fans.
Sorry.
Lucas Matisse. It's hard to pick against Floyd Mayweather, and it's hard to pick against Lucas Matisse, especially in 2013.
For 2 different reasons.
Everything that he's been doing this year is ridiculous. I rewatched both the quick fight against Mike Dallas and then the fight against Lamont Peterson. And aside from the big punching power, this guy has a great chin.
Yeah.
He could take it. He could give as good as he takes, and he's one of the best punchers in boxing, maybe the best puncher in boxing today. Danny Garcia is a good fighter. I'm not taking anything away from Danny Garcia. We nominated him for Fighter of the Year last year. I think you may have even picked him, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe not. But Danny Garcia, early on, he's as good as anybody in boxing. But about the 5th or 6th round, he starts trading. He gets a little sloppy. And you can't get sloppy against Lucas Matisse. I'm picking Matisse by knockout in 7 or 8 rounds.
I'm going with Matisse by 8th round knockout. Danny Garcia's left hook is really fun when he lands it. Very dangerous if you're going to have a guy like Lucas Matisse across from you. He swings that punch way too wide, and I don't think Matisse is going to let him get away with the mistakes that a lot of other guys have. Lost in this whole scenario is that Matisse is really a much improved boxer. A couple of years ago, if you'd said Matisse versus Maidana, those Argentinians head-to-head, the money would have still been on Maidana, and now I don't think so anymore. I think Matisse is a superior boxer, obviously in the Maidana scenario, but I think he might also be, right on par with Danny Garcia's skills in terms of boxing.
On YouTube, David EMDW said he likes our episodes. He has Mayweather by unanimous decision. He has the feeling that Mayweather will get hurt during the course of the fight, and it'll be a close decision.
Ooh. Well, let's counter that one. This one is from Rex Van Warmer, one of our Facebook fans, who's actually really glad that Kenny Bayless is the third man in the ring, and that's not to be lost here as well.
Great referee.
Excellent referee. Best in the business, according to Rex. This is what he says. He says, I know I'm in the minority, but I think Mayweather will completely outclass Canelo. And the main reason Trout lost, he put it in quotes, is because Canelo unexpectedly came out boxing and he couldn't adapt to it. Money May can adapt to any style. Alvarez is more talented than I originally gave him credit for, but I still think his chances are being overestimated.
Riri Hope.
Like that one.
Floyd Sr. is lying about only seeing one video. He also spoke with some guy from Detroit who gave Canelo some trouble. Canelo is not Cotto. Cotto beat Hall of Fame guys, and Canelo barely beat Austin Trout, and an aging Mosley did better against him than he did against Floyd. He didn't offer a certain prediction.
No, but it's the A versus B.
Yeah,
should be B versus C type of scenario.
Right, which doesn't always happen. And as we found out,
right,
a couple
in a number
weeks
of
ago.
scenarios. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And a couple weeks ago, Paul George is Issa. He says 100% this fight will have a controversial ending. My gut tells me that it will be a very close fight, and perhaps, I hope, a great fight with 12 hard rounds for both men. Although I think Canelo needs to be more active against Money May. Let's see if he does.
The final one that I'm going to read from YouTube, and I like this name, Sir Stack-A-Lot 1. He has Mayweather by KO in round 9. He thinks he's going to be landing those right hands like he did against Guerrero. And Alvarez is going to be hands down backtracking off the back foot. Now that he... because everybody just refers to him as Canelo.
Yeah.
His last name is Alvarez. It's
Alvarez.
a cool last name.
Just like you.
and when we did a couple of good reports on Telemundo, and for those of you that want to see great coverage throughout the week, Deportes Telemundo will have you covered as well as on YouTube. We did some great videos. Canelo Alvarez has two brothers that my brother saw, and he goes, dude, they could be related to us.
Oh,
so
yeah?
You never know if our great-great-great-grandfathers, one went to Cuba, one went to Mexico, and
the rest is history.
And there was some Irish guy along the way as well.
Alex has given us the wave. I'm going to actually leave us on a cliffhanger. Rumor came out of training camp this week that Floyd Mayweather was dropped on a body shot during a sparring session. Hasn't been validated, also hasn't necessarily been denied either. We've made our predictions. We think Mayweather's going to win, but perhaps the writing is on the wall. We'll find out Saturday.